From the soda in your fridge to the beer keg at your local bar, aluminum is everywhere. But what happens when the government slaps tariffs on this critical metal? In February 2025, the U.S. reinstated Section 232 tariffs on steel and aluminum, a policy with roots in the Trump era, tweaked by Biden, and now revived under a new Trump administration. So today, we're breaking down what this means for industries, consumers, and the future of recycling. But before we do all that, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Let's dive in. First, a quick history lesson. Back in 2018, President Trump invoked Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act, imposing a 10% tariff on steel and aluminum imports, citing national security concerns. Critics called it a blunt tool that sparked trade wars, while supporters argued it protected U.S. jobs. Fast forward to the Biden administration, they softened the policy.
Level the playing field with Beijing.
Price is unfairly low because Chinese companies don't need to worry about a profit because the Chinese government subsidizes them and subsidizes them heavily.
Negotiating quotas with allies like Canada and the EU. But in 2025, a new Trump administration has revived the original tariffs, and this time increasing the stakes even higher. Tariffs are a double-edged sword. On one side, they protect domestic producers from cheap foreign aluminum while boosting the domestic production of aluminum and creating jobs. But on the flip side, they raise costs for the same manufacturers and manufacturers downstream who rely on the same imported materials. Think about the beer keg makers, soda can producers, and car part suppliers. Suddenly, their raw materials are pricier, and those costs could trickle down to you at the checkout counter. Here's the big question. Can U.S. producers of aluminum meet the demand? Right now, there are only 5 active aluminum smelters left in America, and upon further research, it turns out building one actually takes 5 years and requires massive investments in cheap energy, and that's something not every state can offer. Even if companies wanted to ramp up production, the clock is ticking, and so for a long-term benefit of being energy independent and self-sufficient on the global stage, the short-term supply chain bottlenecks and price hikes are almost guaranteed to be felt. Let's talk about the little guys. Take your local craft brewery, for example. Aluminum makes up 30% of their production costs. With tariffs, that number could spike, forcing them to raise prices, cut jobs, or close their doors. Same goes for soft drink companies and metal fabricators. All small businesses are already battling inflation, so these new tariffs could be the final straw.
When there's instability, it makes everybody freak out.
While Winslow says the tariffs haven't hit yet, he is already starting to prepare for their effect.
I ordered 400,000 cans. Yes, because I can order them now with aluminum that our producers bought a while ago, just thrown at us with no notice, and it really leaves us hanging.
And so as we see craft breweries and other downstream industries being affected by the steel and aluminum tariffs, will the long-term proposed benefits of being self-sufficient on the international stage and producing our own materials onshore outweigh the short-term immediate pain that will be felt across the markets? Born from 1970s environmental activism, state recycling programs like Oregon's 1971 Bottle Bill and and New York's 1982 Returnable Container Act emerged as the only citizen-driven solutions to combat litter and waste, as well as reclaim materials. These programs, fueled by deposit systems, quickly proved their worth, reclaiming 90% of eligible containers in the states that they were implemented. There's decades of data showing how effective these programs have always been, and I'll share that information in the description of the video. In fact, a recent report by the Container Recycling Institute revealed that the 10 U.S. states with deposit refund systems accounted for almost half of the total tons of aluminum beverage cans recycled in the United States. And in 2021, this amounted to over 300,000 tons out of a total of 600,000 tons recovered nationwide. With these trade tariffs becoming a matter of national policy, now is the time for business owners and policymakers across states to come to the table to enact common sense legislation in accordance with these tariffs. States like New York have to modernize their bottle bills to be able to make sure their return systems are still economically viable. Too many local redemption centers have closed their doors due to rising costs, and now that the pendulum is swinging back to the recycling sector, it's time New York modernized its current laws to become a national leader in recycling and sustainability. With tariffs squeezing U.S. imports, the U.S. is now forced to rely heavily on domestic aluminum, and that's where recycling steps into the spotlight. Here's why. Tariffs mean manufacturers can't easily import cheap, foreign aluminum. Suddenly, recycled aluminum isn't just eco-friendly, it's a strategic resource. Demand for recycled material is projected to surge by 30 to 40% compared to pre-tariff levels, turning redemption centers and scrapyards into boom towns. This isn't just a win for the environment, it's a gold rush for the recycling sector. With only 5 U.S. smelters operational, domestic supply can't keep up. Prices for recycled aluminum could spike 15 to 25%, making every can, bottle, and scrap piece more valuable. For recyclers and redemption centers, this means higher payouts and profits, but for manufacturers, a costly squeeze unless they pivot to recycled sources. Federal tariffs are now a catalyst for state-level innovation. States with deposit return systems like California, Connecticut, Hawaii, Iowa, Maine, Massachusetts, Michigan, New York, Oregon, and Vermont are likely to raise deposit rates and boost handling fees to keep redemption centers thriving. Meanwhile, states that struggle to pass bottle bills like Texas, Florida, New Jersey now have an economic imperative to act. Tariffs give lawmakers the necessary justification to form policies in accordance with them. And so, if the national policy is to secure the aluminum supply, boost domestic production of aluminum, as well as to become self-sufficient on the world stage as a producer of our own raw materials, then the recycling sector is definitely called to action. Yes, craft brewers and indie soda makers are feeling the pinch. Aluminum costs now eat up 35 to 50% of their budgets. But here's the twist. Big brands like Coca-Cola or Anheuser-Busch can't afford to stop production. Why? Because Americans won't stop drinking beer and soda. And if the giants falter, smaller competitors will swoop in, creating a market shakeup that fuels even more demand for recycled aluminum. Does your state have an existing deposit return system on the books, or do they have similar bottle bills or recycling laws pending? Let me know in the comments below. For the recycling sector, this could be a golden opportunity if policymakers and businesses play their cards right. What do you think? Should the U.S. prioritize domestic production for the long-term benefits, or ease tariffs to protect the downstream industries and keep kicking the can down the road? Drop your thoughts below. If you learned something here today or found any of this information useful, please give me a like, share, and subscribe. And I will see you guys on the next video.